Hello and welcome to part 3 of our series Leading at a Distance. My name is Ute Lorenzen. I'm the Managing Director of Impact C&C, which stands for Coaching and Conflict Management. We deliver our services mainly to internationally operating companies of German-speaking origin. So far, we've talked about the challenges of leadership in remote contexts of international business and looked in more detail into what geographical distance can imply for leadership and how it can be bridged. In case you haven't been following the first 2 parts, you can find them on our website impact-vc.com. Last time we defined 4 aspects of distance: geographical, cultural, language distance, and what we call organizational or internal distance. All these need the attention of the manager responsible for the team, the unit, or another entity operating across borders. Today's the 3rd part of our podcast. We are focusing on cultural distance. How can an organization and how can you as a manager deal with different cultural backgrounds present in your team? Foreign and strange. Those feelings come up regularly in contact with people from a different cultural background, and of course it works both ways. German companies, for example, who establish cross-border entities, experience that as well as nationals of the host country coming into a German-based company. Seeing differences often leads to uncertainty how to communicate and to behave. So how do we deal with that? There are a lot of intercultural trainings that are based on the assumption that when we know things about, for instance, Chinese or Brazilian culture, we are better equipped to deal with Chinese or Brazilian people. The danger in this approach is that it easily leads to stereotyping. Italians always eat pizza, French people are late for meetings, Germans are hierarchical, and for people from South America, the family always comes first. But everybody we meet comes with a whole range and mixture of life experience. Thinking we already know how they will behave might be wrong. And if our apparent knowledge stops us to perceive who the person in front of us is, that might make collaboration as colleagues difficult. And the knowledge approach ignores that every society undergoes changes in the course of time. What we have learned as essential truth about a certain country and their people might have been modified considerably over time. Other intercultural trainings try to build up cultural awareness. The aim here is that people realize the limitations of their own view of the world. Wherever somebody comes from in the world, she or he has learned to view the world from that perspectives. These perspectives are like pairs of pink or green or blue glasses, so all perception is tinged. This is true for individuals as well as for companies and whatever their national background. This is called cultural imprint. For international collaboration, it is important to see and above all to accept that everybody is different, including ourselves. So, getting culturally aware, we necessarily move away from the understanding that how I do things is the right way to do it, or transfer to company scale how we do things, for example, as a German company, is the right way to do it. Still, the question in leading an internationally composed team remains: what do we do with this knowledge in the workplace? And how far does cultural awareness help us to collaborate fruitfully on a day-to-day level in our international settings? How does one handle different attitudes, how to structure work processes? How does one handle different values or different styles of work respectively? And what does that mean for managers leading a team? In fact, a shortcoming of this approach is that awareness is important, but in a way passive. It does not deal with the dimension of behavior or conduct, So we might be aware, but rather helpless, what to do with this. Both approaches deal with cultural differences rather as something that one is. These approaches are also called being culture. So we are very interested in the question what you as a leader can do together with your culturally diverse team to work together efficiently. What is needed are concrete and hands-on ways and strategies to deal with cultural differences in everyday work situations. Ways to reach out, to go into contact, to talk about differences and find common ways to collaborate. Communication and a solution-oriented attitude are key to developing a functioning cooperation. The best way forward lies in actively dealing with differences. This path leads from knowledge to contact, from awareness to action, and this is what we call doing culture. So what's to be done to decrease cultural distance? The cultural imprint does not only affect individuals, it does shape organizations as well. The cultural imprint is present in structures, processes, procedures and policies of a company. And in this sense, French companies are really French and German ones are really German, down to their bones, if you pardon that phrase. So, one way to decrease cultural distance lies in the responsibility of each company, and it is an important work to be done for international companies. However, it is worth looking at what you can do as a team leader as well, and there are possibilities. Let's for a start take a quick look at possible starting points on a corporate level to reduce cultural distance. There are several paths that can be taken. In recruitment, for example, the profiles the company is looking for could be impregnated by very culture-specific expectations, values, professional paths so far taken, so that they tend to fit better for candidates of the company's own national culture. The same could be true for internal procedures, like, for example, performance appraisals or promotions. Thirdly, the question is there any cultural bias in the assignment of crucial responsibilities? What positive action could be taken to reduce that? The same is true for the allocation of leadership positions. And finally, in how far are your leadership and management principles based on the company's own cultural imprint? So all these dimensions could be screened for cultural biases. However, acting on the leadership level is just as important and implies different strategies. The steps you as a leader take with your team on a hands-on and practical level, HR policies can rarely achieve. So what can you do in your position? In international collaboration, we sometimes notice differences, sometimes we might merely anticipate them. This might not be relevant in some situations, in others it might lead to irritation. Our personality as well as our cultural imprint shape what we think about work and how it should be done. We have values attached to our specific ways of doing our work. For us, it is the best and most logical way to function in the workplace. How we work is a somewhat intimate part of ourselves. Working together can entail a higher degree of closeness as in how far we get to know each other's mode of functioning. Especially moments of high intensity when everybody is intent on getting things done are situations where everyone draws on the best known ways to do things, but also situations which might be rife with mutual irritation. Feelings of foreignness and irritation might feel awkward, but can be taken as a positive starting point. It is a good approach to deal with differences as they appear in the everyday context. And it is a fruitful way to deal with friction and irritation with a mindset of doing culture. Doing culture is about interaction. It is an active way to getting to know differences as well as commonalities and to build on them. It is about mutuality. It is about talking rather than assuming, asking rather than interpreting. So, how could you start doing this with your team? One step can be to question implicit routines. Routines are sequences of actions regularly followed. That might be policies, processes, procedures, the way tasks are performed or duties. All those things that must be done regularly and at specific intervals to get all the work done. In companies, there are a lot of set policies, rules and procedures that have to be followed, either for compliance reasons or company-specific reasons. Beyond these, in leadership and team functioning, there are numerous informal routines, how work is done. Routines once established are commonly taken for granted, and that's what they are there for. In international teams with several different cultural backgrounds, different routines could be present, or even different conceptions of what should be routinized and in what way. So start scrutinizing your semi-formal or informal routines together. Start asking yourself and your team, what are our routines? What are the patterns of doing things? What has each of us been doing in what way so far? And why is it good for each of us to do it the way we do it? There are several benefits of taking these steps. One of them is that everybody starts reflecting themselves, and in this way everybody gets to know themselves better. And in the same way you get to know each other, which sometimes even has a revealing aha effect and fosters understanding in a deeper sense. And also routines put into words in this way are made available for discussion. In all this, it is essential to adopt the attitude of curiosity and a non-judgmental mindset. There's no need to defend routines. It is not about asserting oneself, nor is it about convincing others that my routines are the best. Another way is to discuss standards. A standard is something used as a measure, norm or model set up to evaluate a quantity, weight, extent, value or quality. So the dictionary says. And of course there are a lot of standards in a company. There are a lot of official standards and there are semi-official and informal standards. And there are personal standards. You as a manager have your personal and leadership standards. Each of your team members have their personal standards. And we are all, of course, also to an extent culturally imprinted. Exchange around these could, amongst others, touch on standards of minutes, time frames, responsibility, commitment, leadership, being a colleague, etc., etc. The finishing step is for both paths to elaborate synergies and agree on routines and standards which will be valid in future for everybody. I also would like to introduce you to the third way approach, which has 4 steps. The third way approach is a way to deal with situations that occurred while exercising your leadership function or in team situations. Let's call them incidents. For these, we suggest to follow this third way approach. The aim is to benefit from the strengths of all cultures present in a given situation, to create new ways of doing things, which would be called to create intercultural synergy, and to find mutually agreed solution in processes of exchange and negotiation. So in concrete, you start with the first step to describe the issue at hand, something that occurred in collaborating, a situation that caused misunderstanding or irritation. In this first step, everybody describe from their respective cultural perspective how they perceived the situation and how they interpreted it for themselves. So the second step would be to look for similarities and differences of the two or even more cultural preferences to deal with that situation. And thirdly, you would investigate common ground and especially common interests concerning the issue at hand. So, for example, if the situation you encountered involved the issue of flexibility, you look into what is the common interest behind having flexibility in the team. So the fourth and final step is then to look for and agree on the way you will handle this in future. This could be a solution which lies either beyond the respective cultural ways or which combines aspects of both. We do hope that these described paths do motivate you to try them out, and we would be interested to hear if it worked for you and in what way. Having said all this, a word of warning. Cultural differences are one parameter among several. At the bottom of irritations, there could be conflicting interests as well, or unclear task assignments, or on a corporate level, even an insufficient integration of an international business unit or project. International companies face a double and contradictory challenge. They have at the same time to handle cultural differences proactively enough, and on the other, avoid to culturalize upcoming problems, meaning that irritations are first and foremostly interpreted as cultural incompatibilities. That's it for today. Thank you for your attention. The next part will be language distance, and the last one then after that, organizational distance. Watch out for the next part or follow us on LinkedIn. We're happy to receive your comments and hear about your experiences in leadership at a distance, either via LinkedIn or directly via mail. Thanks again, and bye.